Something big is about to happen in China. And no, it's not real estate. That disaster is already here. I'm talking about the next time bomb, ticking louder every day. China's electric vehicle industry. The industry Beijing called its hope of overtaking the world. The industry local governments bet their future on. The industry the propaganda machine promised would be China's Tesla moment. But in reality, it's on the exact same road as Evergrande. Only this time, instead of ghost apartments, we are staring at ghost cars. Millions of them. Welcome to Evergrande on wheels. And before I dive in, let me give a quick shout out to one of my channel members, Mr. Mux, who asked, Ken, I'd love to hear your take on the other ticking time bomb in China, the EV sector. Well, here it is. This entire video is my deep dive response to that exact question. So if you want to ask me questions directly and shape the topics that I cover, check out the membership link below. And that is where you get direct access. Now, think back to Evergrande. At its peak, skyscrapers sprouted like weeds, projects everywhere, debt everywhere, and then collapse. Millions of unfinished homes, angry families, protests in the streets. Now, fast forward to today. Look at China's EV sector. Entire car graveyards filled with unsold new vehicles. Tires already flat. Dust piling up on the windshields. And as we discussed in an earlier video on BYD's accounting fraud, 0-kilometer cars are being dumped abroad, rebranded as used just to unload the inventory. And the data is shocking. Nearly 74% of used EV car dealers are in the red, losing money. In the first half of this year, the average used EV car price dropped more than 12%. EVs make up over a third of new car sales in China, but their value collapses as soon as they leave the parking lot. By April 2025, inventories of new energy vehicles soared from 660,000 to 850,000 in just 4 months. Translation: these cars are not just hard to sell, they're impossible to sell. Now, here's the terrifying part. This isn't a normal market adjustment. This is a vicious cycle engineered by China's local governments. EV companies bleed money leads to the local government, stepping in with subsidies, which leads these loss-making companies to keep expanding the production lines. And as a result, the market drowns in oversupply, which leads to these EV companies bleeding even more money. It's the exact same chicken blood logic that destroyed real estate. Keep the zombie alive at any cost, even if the body is already cold. Guangzhou City literally issued a document in June 2025 demanding 3 new EV companies with annual capacity of over 500,000 each, right? And the price, 500,000,000 RMB in annual subsidies if you just churn out 100,000 units. And at least 6 other provinces rolled out similar plans. It's madness. By 2024, China's car makers had the ability to produce 55 million vehicles a year. That is 3 times the actual demand. Consulting firm Alex Partners predicts that by 2030, out of 129 EV brands, only 15 will survive. That means more than 80% of EV car companies are doomed. But here's the catch. They can't die yet, because if they collapse now, local governments face layoffs, tax losses, and social unrest. And under China's system, the one thing more terrifying than economic failure is protests in the streets. So what happens? A price war straight to the bottom. Electric cars that once sold for 200,000 RMB now go for under 70,000 RMB. In dollar terms, this year had seen new EVs selling for less than 10,000 USD. In the US, most EVs still cost over 35,000 USD. So this isn't innovation. This is desperation. Xiaopeng's CEO admitted to survive until 2030, a company needs 3 million annual sales. Yet Xiaopeng barely sold 200,000 cars last year, not even 10% of the survival volume. The result? No price cut means no sales. But price cut means company bleeding money. What about stopping production? Well, that means losing cash flow and dying instantly. So in a way, building a car is like riding a bicycle in China. You stop pedaling and you fall. And right now they are pedaling downhill into a brick wall. Now, this entire circus traces back to local government's addiction to land finance. When real estate slowed, they needed a new cash cow. So they pushed cars this time. Land was sold at fire sale prices to lure these EV manufacturers. Changfeng County of Anhui Province sold BYD over 8 square kilometers of land at less than 40% of market value. Sound familiar? It's the same build cities overnight trick from the property boom. Short-term GDP gains, long-term disaster. People think Chinese automakers are innovative, but what's really happening? It's the same Evergrande logic. Borrow, expand. Lose money, borrow again. Between 2014 and 2019, over 60 new EV car companies entered the market. And today, only a handful remain and still losing money. BYD, NIO, XPeng, Li Auto, Leapmotor. The others all collapsed, leaving behind about 4 million units of wasted capacity. This isn't capitalism. It's a Ponzi scheme on 4 wheels. And when this crashes, it won't just be car companies that suffer. It will be an employment crisis. Millions of jobs tied to auto parts, dealers, logistics, and auto repair, and a financial crisis. Trillions in unpaid loans and bad debt snowballing across banks, and the local fiscal crisis. Local governments already drowning in real estate losses, and now they're facing collapsing auto revenue. And the result? A systemic shock. As big as real estate, maybe bigger. Some optimists might say, Ken, don't worry, China will export the cars. But let's get real. The EU just slapped tariffs and restrictions on Chinese EVs. The US is closing the door. Japan's market is locked. Southeast Asia and India, too small to absorb millions of units. So where do they go? Abandoned in wastelands, sold as scrap, rotting in those car graveyards. Houses, cars doesn't matter. The story is the same. China props up bubbles with debt, subsidies, and land finance. And when the bubble pops, the wreckage spreads across the entire economy. First, it's real estate. Now, EVs. Next, maybe solar panels, maybe semiconductors, maybe steel. But the lesson never changes. When a country builds its miracle on subsidies instead of real demand, the miracle always ends in collapse. China's EV Evergrande is approaching the point of explosion. And when it goes off, it won't just bury millions of unsold cars. It will bury the illusion of Chinese dream once and for all.